we are not going to have an agreement on those issues, it can also lead into war. It can lead into war because for the North to accept the South to go, they would want to have some access to all those resources. And even for the South to allow also the North to have access to all those resources, in return they have to have something in return. And these are the things that can be discussed and can be ironed out by the two parties, but the mediation should be led by IGAD and the international community, including the US, and the rest should rally behind IGAD, like what we did in Naivasha last time when we were negotiating the CPA. Because these are going to be difficult issues, even difficult than the CPA itself when we were negotiating it. Because this is actually involving many countries like Egypt, for example, and even 9 countries that are sharing the Nile water. And the national debts, we are owing the IMF and World Bank $36 billion now. So World Bank and IMF will definitely also be involved in this post-2011 arrangement and many other issues, the issue of citizenship and the boundaries. So I think these are the things that we really need to focus and pay close attention to them before we are caught off guard. I've been going to the UN meeting with the Security Council members and the UN body. And we are just basically reminding them that you have only 9 months left. You cannot continue to just sit down and wait for 2011. And I use this example, very simple example. In the village that I'm coming from, we don't have ultrasound when your wife is pregnant. So you prepare for both. If this is going to be a baby boy or a baby girl, you definitely need to be ready for it. So the UN Security Council should not wait until the baby is born and then they rush to the stores to buy clothes or whatever they can buy. So they need to get prepared for it now, make sure that everything that needs to be done is in its place before we are surprised in 2011. And I think the message is being heard, and they are clearly moving forward, even though we are being criticized as a government, that you are having some issues, corruption, issue of weak governance, issue of insecurity in the South. We are telling them this can be fixed. Yes, these are issues and we are facing them daily, but they can be addressed. And we are addressing them, but we need support so that we can address them. We need our capacity to be built so that we can govern. We need logistics, support logistically, so that we can go to a village. If there is a fighting in Richmond, Virginia, and you are here, and you wanted to stop that fighting in Richmond, Virginia, and you can't get there on time, you have to walk from here to Richmond. Then by the time you arrive there, it is actually everybody is gone or is killed. So logistically, there has to be a quick way to get there so that we can stop the insecurity that is happening there. The same thing with the issue of corruption. It is everywhere. But the political will is there to fight corruption. We just needed to be supported. In comparison, when the East Timor was being prepared to govern, there was 5,000 international technical advisors in East Timor helping them. But now in Southern Sudan, we have only 150. It's a big and a huge gap. If we can only have 1,000 helping us, then definitely we can be on our feet in 2011. And I think we are just appealing to the international community. Instead of condemning us that you are going to be a failed state and you should not actually be an independent state because you are a pre-failed state already, you will not be a viable state in 2011. You cannot prevent the will of the people because they have some issues. If they decided to go that way, what you needed to do is to make sure that they are capable and viable in whatever they wanted to choose by building their capacity. That's what I wanted to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ezekiel. Appreciate it. Roger.
Okay. I'm going to actually pick up on that failed state thing in a moment, but let me just be clear. These are my own views. These are not the government of Southern Sudan's views. These are my own views. So you don't get faulted for what I say.
Okay.
As most who are probably listening know, hopefully at least, the South has been at war with Khartoum for 75% of the time, 75 to 80% of the time since they became independent from Great Britain. 75 to 80% of the time they've been at war for the same reasons that we're all likely familiar with after listening to Ezekiel. In particular, during the last 20 years, the U.S. has become viewed uniquely as a special friend of the South, or at least that idea grew up. We started having a lot of members of Congress and journalists starting to show up in the late 80s, and the Atlanta Constitution and all these guys were making the cause of South Sudan known and understood. Congress folks like Frank Wolf and Payne and others, Mickey Leland, who died working on this stuff, Congressman Mickey Leland, and others. John was just a young man. He was just getting cranked up, and a lot of us were working on Sudan in those days, trying to actually build the idea that the U.S. and South Sudan can be friends, and so forth. And the fact that we had sanctions, the fact that we did a lot against Khartoum, that we did a lot of humanitarian assistance, particularly during Operation Lifeline Sudan, and so forth. It was a growing and stabilizing relationship. The problem is that now, at the end, almost, of the CPA, this same friendly U.S., in my view, is destabilizing the South in the way that we are handling our relations with Sudan. When I say destabilizing, when I got back from Juba on Thursday, I'm usually there every other month at the most, and sometimes more frequently than that. I try to read the population and the officials and so forth, and it is my view that they're no longer confident that the United States has their back. Now, we're only 10 months away from the Holy Grail for the South, which is the referendum. So to have, if I'm correct, to have this destabilization of the South, it's very dangerous. But the problem, in my view, is, and I'm not going to dwell on this, but is to say that there is no pressure really on Khartoum from us to do the right thing with respect to the South, or Darfur for that matter, because no one in the U.S. administration is sufficiently putting any pressure on Khartoum. The U.S. government has essentially abdicated that role by snuggling up to the National Congress Party in Khartoum. And I just suggest this is very dangerous. It may have implications that we haven't entirely fathomed right now, but it's something that overshadows most of what is going to happen in Sudan generally, and regarding the issues of the South particularly over the next while. Now, what I wanted to do was pick up on what Ezekiel was talking about, this issue of failed state, a little bit. Because you hear it more and more and more, and it is promoted by Khartoum and lots of other folks, and I just like to take a step back and try to make a different kind of case. Okay, I know sociologists and all these guys, they have their own definition of what a failed state is. You know, how you account for your money and how you do a variety of things like this. What I'd like to do is try to make the case